So we're going to be going over system concepts. Article 12, feeling the truth. Truth is our current state. Faith is our future state. The goal is to raise our current state to our future state. This is called truth shall sprout from the land. We grow from the land, our desires, to faith, internal power. And here's a quote. Truth is what one feels and sees in one's eyes. This discernment is called reward and punishment, meaning that nothing can be gained without labor. It is like a person who sits in his home and does not want to do anything to provide for his sustenance. He says that since the Creator is good, that doeth good and provides for all, hence he will certainly send him his needs, while he himself is required to no action. Of course, if this person behaves in this manner, he will certainly starve to death. Reason, too, necessitates it. So it appears to the eyes, and this is indeed the truth, meaning that he will die of starvation. But at the same time, one must believe above reason that one could obtain all one's needs without any exertion and trouble, because of private providence. In other words, the Creator does and will do every deed, and one does not help him in anything, but the Creator does everything, and one cannot add or subtract. Yet, how can these two things go hand in hand, since one contradicts the other? One discernment is called what one mind attains, meaning that without man's help, meaning that without preceding labor and exertion, nothing will be attained. This is called truth, because the Creator wanted one to feel that way. This is why this path is called the path of truth. From the Article 43, the matter of truth and faith, from Shetty by Bala Sulam. It is very important not to ignore our feelings. They were given to us by the Creator within us and are constantly renewed. If we feel that something is wrong, it probably is. Going above reason does not mean ignoring our feelings, but rather to discern them. Over history, many groups have been formed, offering happiness to all that conform to their will. They have explained that lack of equality and conformity are the cause of all our problems. However, these false hopes do not last. Kabbalah does not promise equality in our separate bodies, but rather in our inner connection to the true power inside ourselves. In that state, we are truly connected. We need to reveal our inner force that drives us, to learn about its goal, associate ourselves with its power, and move our consciousness to equalize with its singularity. And here's a quote. Our matter, the will to receive, was first created in a corrected form, meaning the form of bestowal, which was then inverted to reception. Reacquiring the form of bestowal through our own efforts is the essence of our correction. This process should be carried out using the same pattern that was created while we had the form of bestowal and is based entirely on practical experimentation. Hence, this process is entirely reliable. Philosophy, however, engages in ideals abstracted from matter. It is completely opposite to the method of Kabbalah because it is founded on the study of abstract forms. Philosophy discusses qualities such as truth, falsehood, anger, and valor, while not clothed in matter. Ascribing abstract forms, titles such as truth is good, lying is bad, this creates a concern that people relate to such declarations as ideals and will adhere to them fanatically. Part 3, Perception of Reality, from the book Kabbalah, Science and the Meaning of Life by Rav Michael Lightman. Truth is matter. Our goal is to clothe this matter with faith, form. We should never ignore our truth, but empower our truth to continue searching for a higher truth that is not disconnected from our experiences. To go above our experiences is not to ignore, but rather to use them as a tool to reveal our inner connection, our inner power. If the system wanted us to be happy on a low desire of power, it could have done that long ago. But that is not the goal of the Creator. The goal of the Creator is for us to reach adhesion with its degree of power. All the situations we experience are not fulfilling, but rather to enable us to grow, to become independent on each other. It is very important for us not just accept the concepts, but rather learn, criticize, and understand the growth process together. And here's a quote. In general, whenever we begin to do real work on ourselves, we immediately begin to see the obstacles on our path to the perception of the spiritual. These obstacles appear as various extraneous thoughts and desires, as the loss of confidence in the correctness of the chosen path, as discouragement in the face of our real desires. All these obstacles are sent to us to test us from above. They will determine whether we really possess a thirst for the truth, no matter how contradictory it is to our own egoistic nature, and how distressing it is to give up our own comforts for the sake of the Creator. From Chapter 21, Correcting Egoism, from the book Attain the Worlds Beyond by Rav Michael Leitman. These obstacles are precisely what help us advance. We must make sure we don't get too arrogant with our desires in order to keep us balanced. Using our shared melting pot of discernments, we evolve to our future phase of perception. We need to empower ourselves using each other. The desire should be to reach our singularity in its corrected form. We should be inclusive in our internal power, empowering others in order to increase our own power. And here's the workshop question. 1. How can we avoid being fanatical? Davina.
My mute button. Well, I think that just by taking each thing, is said in the article that everything is given to us to grow. And so, we have to discern it. And one of the biggest things that I forget is not that I'm not, that Creator is within me, and to reveal it, but reveal it, Him, the Creator. But I don't want to go to the phase of chaos, to where my energy is not directed; it's just scattered.
Maria.
To remember that everything is relative and not absolute, that there's a middle in between the left and the right.
Mark.
To scrutinize, to ask questions. Being fanatical, there is no question asked. It's blind faith. It's faith below reason. So we need to apply reason, or even go to faith in order to not be fanatical.
Moshe.
Yeah, just to be flexible, to not get stuck, not wanting to get stuck in any type of degree, because I think being fanatical is almost like you're doing things without any real reason. You're just doing it. It's below reason. And it's important to just constantly be scrutinizing and constantly wanting to know more.
Peter.
Well, it seems that if we lose our focus, or on the other hand, if we allow our ego to increase our focus to the point where it just becomes a path of self-satisfaction, we can become fanatical. We probably would not be considering our connection with friends or society, or even each other in this group. So it'd be like disconnecting from everything and just really serving ourselves. So it's really a point of, how do we control our ego and get corrected? How do we correct our desires and intentions, our ego at the same time, and not become fanatical about it? Fanaticism always is a destructive force, because it takes away what's good and it replaces it with, it exposes the dark side of the ego. Thank you.
Robin.
I agree. Fanaticism is ego, is someone just filled with themselves and an idea. So we need the group. We need to keep that balance, working with the friends and toward the goal of everyone being independent on each other.
Shelly.
Focusing on each other, going with the flow, always being open in your perception. No one's wrong, no one's right. Nothing's wrong, nothing's right. Everything is for the goal of reaching that attainment of becoming in adhesion with the Creator. And everything that's put into our pathway, whether it's thought, word, action, is for us to grow more and more in that perception of flowing with the flow of the sea. It's like being a small creek, and we run into the river with a group, and then the river runs into the sea.
Mary.
By understanding that everybody has their own view of the world, and by integrating with everyone and friends, and really making efforts to see another's through the lens of their eyes as much as possible.
Lee.
I think it helps to stay out of dogmatism, because it seems that's where fanaticism, or at least one avenue that or connection, and remaining flexible. I know it was a real gift to me, although I was born into my birth religion, or the birth religion that I was born into. I never tried to wrestle anybody to the ground and convert them to my way of thinking, and I was constantly, working at it, seeing disparity of form, seeing, inconsistencies that I had to resolve before I could sell this message, and I can't sell the message anymore because I see that, this whole new realm where it's reality is a multiplicity of perspective, and you got to keep refining it and including and see this science. Thank you.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, like they were saying, it's avoid the fanaticism and the absolutism. We have a saying: check yourself, don't wreck yourself. So that would be like, try to have the self-awareness that these situations are for educational purposes. Not to become a Hitler. Thank you.
Rick.
I was going to answer that it's through the group, but then you have group leaders who are very charismatic, and they can turn things in a way that maybe you don't understand, and you're following along, and the next thing you're in lockstep and you're believing like everyone else believes. You have to keep from being fanatical, you have to be yourself and believe in your own uniqueness. But at the same time, as you empower yourself, you use that empowerment not for your own benefit, but for the benefit of the others. And in that, if you see someone trying to gain total control of that, you catch that perspective and take and look for that perspective and watch for it, and always seek out the Creator as for the proper path, because you can be fooled. You can be your soul can be stolen by someone's other's concept and ideas if they present it to you in a manner that you find agreeable. Thank you.
Jenny.
Yeah, I think most everything was said. Fanaticism
it can take two forms, I guess. One is trying to get control of the group, and the level 2. I think of fanaticism more though is in level 1, trying to coerce others into what you're believing with such force that it really repels or causes just a whole concept to be thwarted by others because of fear or of crazy attitude. So we need the group to help us keep in line, and like everything that was just said about watching for those that are trying to control, and I guess just generally sensing in yourself, feeling in yourself. If you're seeing things around you fall away and disappear because people, are wanting to stay away from you, you have to, think of that and taking all those messages as important, and really listening to the friends that, really listening to your group to perceive any of those fanatical kinds of outward actions or words. So, thank you.
At the end of the day, if you're trying to advance, fanaticism is detrimental to that, because number one is just filling. And it's filling on both sides. It's filling whether you're the fanatical leader, where you're getting filling out of everybody following your orders blindly. And it's also filling if you're the one who's following the orders because it's just very comfortable. It's just so much easier to just go through life without having to actually scrutinize and think and contemplate and just be aware of yourself and where you're going. It's so much easier to just flow with life. There's the example that they say that the kosher fish have fins and scales, and the idea is that we only eat fish that can go against the flow, that they have fins that can go against the flow of the water. So the idea is that fish is worries. So the idea is that if your worries can go against the flow of others, that shows your independence, that shows your growth, and it will keep you more aligned to the goal. Second question. Why is it important that we listen to our emotions? Davina.
So we don't become a blubbering idiot like I was today and hold things in for 2 weeks before I let the love of friends help correct me.
Maria.
Why is it important? It's important because it shows me what I need to work on. I guess, you could be fanatical about one's emotions too, but if I'm actually looking for my pain point, then I know what triggers me, then I won't be fanatical about that, saying, oh, well, I'm right and he's wrong, but rather use it to discern and to get to singularity. So you'll have negatives and positives, but use it truly to try to make a discernment and try to get to singularity.
Mark.
I think the emotions are above reason. Our intellect, we can weigh the pros, the cons, the left, the right, but emotion just is. So it's a more trustworthy barometer, perhaps. Thank you.
Moshe.
I actually have a thought about sometimes how we shouldn't listen to our emotions, because, like this is the thing, on this path, you're going to go through ups and downs. And when you're going through downs, it's very natural to just be like, oh, I don't want this. Well, I guess in that sense, you are listening to your emotion. But in another sense, we have to go sort of above our emotions and be like, okay, I'm feeling this. I don't like that I'm feeling it, but I think it's great that I'm going through it because it's part of my advancement. So in that sense, I'm not letting it affect me. So I guess that's what I was trying to say. I guess not let emotions affect you and not really care about where you're at, not really care about if you're feeling good or bad, but really all about your growth, and are you moving forward? That's the most important thing that we should be paying attention to.
Robin.
Well, I think listening, following, paying attention to your emotions, scrutinizing them, I think they lead you to the very source of yourself. They lead you to your pain point. They lead you to everything the Creator is trying to tell you about yourself so you can advance.
Shetty.
The Creator telling you that you can advance. The emotions is very hard to hide, especially on our facial features. They can reveal how we are internally scrutinizing. And the emotions, well, they're not actually a matter of perception. It's just they're there, and we have to deal with them, whether we bring it in internally or we express it externally. The latter is something that we don't always want to express. Internally is more favorable for us.
Mary.
Emotions are important, especially in the moment when you are interacting with someone, because they are just the truth that, that manifests in you. If you have an automatic repulsion to something someone said or did, or an attraction to it, it's automatic. And even if it isn't real strong, or if it is strong and it's internal, later you need to go back, if not then, and scrutinize why you had that reaction that you did, whether it was a real strong attraction or a real strong repulsion. So they're kind of the guide to discernment, one of them.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think it's our reference points, emotional reference points that we can make our discernments from. It's the faith above reason. Thank you.
Lee.
Yeah, they're definitely fuel. There's so many aspects, it seems like, to come at. Why it's important is, I guess, it's the fuel to push you forward. And I know for a long time I had all kinds of emotions, and I'm sure this applies to many of us. You stuff them and you don't know what to do with them, and you're like trying to figure out which way to go, especially before Kabbalah, had all these freaking emotions just drowning in them almost. And like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be a nice guy. You can't get, you can't go killing people. But I don't know, just they're everything. I mean, it's it gives us motivation. It gives, like someone said, their truth, So try to do all the configurations and push all the damn buttons and see what happens. Thanks.
Rick.
Thanks.
My bleeding heart's tied to my sleep. My emotions is in who I am and what I am. It is the way I communicate with each of you. You may hear me speak words, but it is coming from the essence of my being and my emotions there, the sensations I feel there. I feel the Creator through those emotions and the sensations. It is not that He touches me physically lets me see him physically or hear him in any physical matter. It's through those emotions and sensations that he reaches out and I can feel his essence in any little shape or form. Not that I really know that essence at this time, but at times he gives me that taste, and I know, I can feel, I know. I've touched some of you in different ways, whether you knew it or not. And I can feel you. I feel who you are in many different ways. I am not fine-tuned enough to give more of that or expound on that. But that's what I'm working towards, because through my emotions, not only do I know myself and my pain points that I've wrapped up and hidden away over the years, but I also learn to know each of you and who you are. Thank you.
Jenny.
Yeah, I guess in that, the emotions are kind of a barometer, and it's been said, like pain points. And the intensity of those emotions give us opportunities to discern and, ask, what is this for? What do I do with this? And again, it's an opportunity to elevate. In addition, by choosing to do discernments, especially with an intensity of emotion, it's, I would think, less likely to want to act, but only to work internally to find out what the message is and how to be able to develop so that you're coming more to that middle line. Because again, intensity of emotion is showing your distance from the opposite. So it gives you that barometer, that gauge to work inside and scrutinize what you're experiencing, and then experience that coming to the center. Thanks.
Without our emotions, we wouldn't have anything to correct. If someone was, didn't have any emotions, well, what are you trying to correct? The whole idea is that we have emotions, and we will react negatively to certain situations, and that's where we feel that we have a perception to actually correct. So if you remove the emotions, then you have nothing to correct anyway. And the idea is, it's not that we have to agree with our emotions. We just need to accept them and listen to them. So it doesn't mean if our emotions tell us something, it doesn't mean we have to do what they say. They're an input. Just like if a friend tells us something to do, it doesn't mean we have to say, oh, well, if the creator is driving him, then the creator is speaking to me, and therefore I have to do what the friend is saying because it's the creator that's saying it. It's like, no, the creator interacts with us with these multiple inputs, and our work is to figure out the filters of how to convert it. So a friend might say to you, don't do something, and then you put a filter in, and you're like, oh, the creator is actually telling me that I should continue doing it. And you start putting all those manipulations on our senses, on our emotions, to figure out how the creator is trying to talk to us in truth. The third question, how do we stay balanced on this path? Davina.
Well, definitely trying to connect with the Rav and the books and the friends. But based on what we've been saying, is to discern our emotions, where they come from, and what they mean to us in our growth.
Maria.
I think it's maybe not shying away from using the tension to connect to the goal, and actually being each other's tools, because by listening to all of your points of views, I grow that way. So we're helping each other maintain this balance continuously.
Mark.
One thing I'd like to mention is can everybody read the chat? Alan posted something just beautiful earlier, and I just wondered if everybody could see it. So
No, I'm driving.
Okay. Well,
Read it to her.
I'd like to read what Alan wrote earlier, and it was for the previous question. She said that Kabbalah calibrates our emotional guidance system, and I just thought that was so beautiful. It's clear, it's concise, and it's perfect. So I'm sorry that I interrupted the flow here.
It's totally fine. Do you want to answer the third question as well?
Yes, I certainly do. How do we stay balanced on this path? We do that by exactly what we're doing here. As Maria just said, every time a question's asked, I formulate the correct and the only possible answer in my head. And then I listen to all of you and I realize how far off I was or how my scrutiny wasn't correct. Because I can't escape myself when I'm in myself. I have to listen to each one of you, and I have to take each one of your beautiful answers into consideration. So it's a consensus, and it's a scrutiny. It's working with each one of you. Thank you.
Moshe.
Well, just like Mark was saying, it's not just our limited perception. We have the goal of Kabbalah is to increase our perception, and we can do that by listening to others, right? So the more we get to hear, the more we can increase our perception and get to see a bigger picture. As far as staying balanced. It's a very interesting term, balance. What are you exactly trying to balance here? I mean, I'm relating it to my degrees, that I'm constantly trying to be in the middle line or trying to constantly be advancing. That's what to me is what balance is. I'm not trying to be too high. I'm not trying to be too low. And if I sort of, seemingly feel that I'm going either way, I'm gonna be definitely talking to friends and trying to get to the next degree, and then not to get caught up in any state, especially a good feeling. I mean, that's it's not about that. It's just about constantly advancing to the next degree.
Peter.
Yes, well, this is a very challenging question because I have to keep checking to see where I'm at, how big is my desire. I guess my desire and my ego just go for this knowledge, and for everybody involved, I don't know if I have a sense of balance. I'm like a sponge. I would just like chronic interruptions to stop happening every time I get on the call. It's almost like the creator's going, so you're going to advance, are you? Well, here's something. Here's a curve I'm going to throw you. But, it has to do with balance. It drives me nuts. But I think that, I can't really say at this point, even if I am balanced, anyway, thanks.
Robin.
Kabbalah is the most difficult path and the most rewarding path, and it's tough sometimes. I mean, it's very difficult to keep your balance at times. I mean, there's so many opportunities to plateau, but through recognizing truth when we get it, that can go into a little bag of truth, and pretty soon you've got a big bag of truth. And when the obstacles come, you've got a lot to fall back on. And I think the more truth you accumulate, it creates a bigger and bigger picture of what we're after, what the goal is, and that starts to sharpen in focus, and understanding grows. So I think just maintaining, always falling back on the truths we know, and not letting the obstacles stop us.
Shelley.
And with the obstacles stopping us or in our perception, in order to stay balanced on this path, the obstacles can be used as stepping stones to reach the goal. And the way we stay balanced is by, wow, I lost my train of thought, is testing and checking ourselves and everything that we receive, whether it's thoughts, actions, words, or anything from others, or books that we read, or any information we receive, we test it and check it constantly, whether we see it as good or whether we see it as bad.
Mary.
As everyone else has said, mostly constantly checking ourselves, scrutinizing ourselves, examining our heart and mind, emotions, what we agree with, what we don't agree with, but also by being willing to accept what we didn't see in ourselves before. That helps us get balanced, kind of by unearthing those things that we don't want to look at, and helps us be balanced, become balanced anyway. Thanks.
Lee.
I'm thinking balanced in relationship to what? So it goes back to relativity, and there's always going to be, I think, a degree that tension's going to constantly, I mean, I don't know what I mean. I don't know. That tension, you know, it's like there's this window, this range, you know, that I'm constantly, like Alan shared, you know, this calibration, everything, there's this contraction expansion process. So I don't know. I at times feel very unbalanced, and other times I feel balanced, but I don't know how to keep it. It keeps wandering from me, or you know, it's we're just going higher. So I guess keep your eye on the goal, like climbing the ladder. You know, 3-point just integration, deeper integration, and like this, and cleaning concepts. You know, seems to be the thing to help us balance, whatever that means.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, this is the same theme. It's the checks and balances and our reference points. You know, like avoid the fanaticism, the overzealousness, and on the other hand, avoid the apathy, blaseness, you know, whatever, you know. Let's realize there's going to be the ups and downs. We have a lot of good metrics that we can use as our reference points to keep us in our check and balance. So it's here again, it's perception, our self-awareness of who we are and what's going on and how we respond to it. Thank you.
Rick.
I don't know how to keep my balance. I'm stuck in a cycle of chasing my tail. So all I can do is bring forth who I am, what I believe and what I think, what I feel, and lay it on the table in front of all of you. And then take what I can find in everything that you present to me and mix it in and mingle it. And blend it together the best way I can. And then bring it back within myself. And look through scrutiny and discernment for that balance within that, to find out what I can change by interjecting new concepts and ideas into my perceptions. Thank you.
Jenny.
Yeah, I think Rick put the period on the sentence there. And in doing those checks and balances, we can only do that if we stay connected to all the levels, because the corporeal world's going to quickly let us know if we're over the top, and the society is going to give us the calibration as well, and then expect to be able to ask, the individuals that are, working to clean the concepts, all the levels, work with all the levels all the time, both externally and internally. And if you ever are finding that you're at a particular state, emotional state, or basically an emotional state for a period of time, that's excessive. It shouldn't be that way. And seek the friends, or seek the individual that you're so much connected to. And I find, whether it's in the corporeal world, like a best friend or a daughter, or the individual that you study with, that you can communicate well with, bouncing things off, because you're doing it internally all the time. And I could say I wasn't perfect at it, especially in the beginning. And that's the question: is when you really don't recognize that you're out of balance, what can bring you back? And again, it's all the different levels of your environment that can bring you back. Thank you.
Alan writes, I'm kind of enjoying the ride between the lines. It gets faster and faster and faster. Laugh out loud. Just have to keep the vile part to myself. I totally agree with you, Jenny. It is about the 4 phases, and keeping the balance comes from having a balance of humanity, spiritual society, the group, and the individual. And what I've seen is that right-line people, when they advance, they sort of neglect more the humanity and the spiritual society side of things. And then they plateau until they reconnect to them. And then left-line people, when they advance, they normally get to disconnect from the group and the individuals and focus mostly on the humanity and the spiritual society. The reason why these 4 processes are these 4 phases is to actually give us that balance between our desire for self and our desire for outside. And that's why you've got the humanity, which is the most external, and then it goes to spiritual society, the group, the individual, just going all the way in, and you have to keep them all active at the same time. And that tension actually creates the balance for us. There's a diagram for this article. So what we see here is, we start here where it's our current state, truth, external, feeling, and the idea is to reach our future state, which is faith, and internal, and its power. So we go from feeling as separate to feeling that connection between us, and actually feeling that independence together.
Excuse me, but will you explain again? I kind of got the dichotomy of the future state and the current state, but can you kind of like cover a little bit about independent together? I mean, I think I kind of understand, but I'm sure that what I'm thinking might not be right.
So one of the concepts I talk about a lot is this idea of independent on each other. We all know about being dependent on each other, which is called a right line, where we basically say, without me, you're nothing. Without the society, you're nothing. Without humanity, you're nothing. We're all connected, and you need everybody. And that's the dependent on each other part. We also know about the left line, which is independence, where I don't need anybody. You can all go and do whatever you want, but I'm going to do this alone. I can do this. I can reach this. I have a desire. and I don't need you all. And then you have the middle line between those two extremes, which is independent on each other, which means for every state I go through, I'm dependent only on my future state, but not on my current state. So every state that I've acquired is mine, and I don't need that dependency on others anymore. And my dependency on others is only to advance to my next state. So every time I become more independent and actually increase my dependency on others in order to grow my independence. So the goal is actually independence, but you reach it by being dependent on each other. And that's that combination between the left and the right. Left-line people feel that independence more strongly. So they feel that they, for example, in their descents, they have to just burn by themselves and they don't ask others for help because they feel like, oh, I have to do this alone because I'm going to become the creator and I have to do this by myself. And they don't understand that, no, you can actually share and actually gain discernments from others and get yourself out of your descent much quicker. You don't have to sort of suffer in your descents alone. And then you have the right line people, which have the opposite problem. They have no problem sharing and talking. Their problem is feeling that sense of self. They're feeling that sense of that they need to become independent. That the right line people tend to want the other friend to pass the barrier first. They're very generous, and that generosity is because they're scared of actually reaching it themselves, actually activating that independence with them, inside of them. Yes, Mark.
Thank you for going over that again. My intellect does something really strange when I hear that. I immediately hear the oxymoron or the dichotomy, and that's where it stops. So it's very beneficial that you just went over that again. Thank you.
It's a concept that repeats itself, and that's one of the advantages of having left and right line people in a group, is that unlike with individuals where you basically choose the individuals you want to work with. No one's there's no coercion there. When you come in a group setting, you're not deciding sort of who's going to be in the group and who's not. You can decide which group you want to be in, but the members in that group are sort of you don't have that direct control over, and that's actually good because that provides that balance. So if it was a group of just right-line people, then they would just be talking about annulment from day to night, and you wouldn't get any desire out of that. And if it was a group of just left-line people, they'd be talking about how you have to be dependent and desire, but there would be never a sense of unity. There would never be a sense of connection or feeling that we're together on this path. There would be always that feeling of every man to himself. So the advantage of a mixed group of men and women, of left and right-line people, is that it can balance you out, giving you, on one hand, to actually grow your desire, to actually reach that independence, but reaching it by actually that unity, by that connection, by that dependency and annulment on each other. The annulment is not that you have to do what the friend says or agree with a friend. The annulment is willing to listen to the friend and willing to take into consideration what they're saying. You might decide in the end that it's not for you, and that's totally fine. But you still have to go through that annulment of listening to the friend, even if he's talking absolute nonsense. Listen, scrutinize it, criticize it. It's totally fine. But you first have to annul to listen. But then the reason why you're listening is for you to advance, and that's the desire part.
So what I'm hearing, or at least what I'm feeling, is that based a little bit on what you said earlier, that in everything that presents itself, that we're going to make a discernment, there's a middle line. And just to use myself as an example, earlier when I asked a question, if I was left line, I wouldn't care what I thought anything about what was written in the Zohar or the Torah, and just go on and do what I want without any concern of bringing contentment to the Creator. And then the far right line would almost be a fanaticism that, oh no, what's in text, that's the law, that's what we follow. So that's kind of what I'm getting from this about each and every discernment, is that we have to look for the middle line, that there's no absolute.
Exactly. The idea is to, and it requires practice. Practice makes perfect, just like anything. That's why the middle line doesn't actually exist. The middle line is the balance of the left and the right line. So there's no actual middle line. The middle line is what we build. We build the middle line. The middle line doesn't exist by itself in nature. We build it by taking the extremities of the left and the right line and bringing them within us to towards the goal. So the goal is actually what provides that balance, because if you want to reach something, that's where you're going to have that balance of actually scrutinizing, but still, so building the desire, but knowing how to use the environment correctly. So one of the first signs of plateauing is when you forget about the goal, or you don't believe in the goal, or you lose sight of the goal, and then you lose that balance. So it's the idea of the light pulls us forward. It's the goal that defines that pull forward to take us out of that extremities and just bring us into this middle line towards the goal.
Yeah, walk the middle is what I was told a long time ago. It's important to avoid the fanaticism. Never leads to anything good.
But the funny thing is don't be fanatic about fanatic people. So, for example, you might really want to be middle, and then you see someone fanatical, and then you, instead of being middle line about it and understanding why they're fanatical, and it's okay for them to be fanatical, you can respond accordingly, right? But if the creator made someone fanatical, then that's the creator's choice, and that's totally fine. You can still respond accordingly. So the idea is don't be fanatical about fanatical people. Also,
right. I just tell them I pass on it,
Exactly. And
you're exactly right, about that, because you said that before about the groups that have arisen that hate BB. They're still there. They're still attached to it, So if I give too much energy to the fanatic, I'm attached. I go, yeah, it's exactly like you say. Everything is from the creator. So, but I avoid extremism myself, and always,
That is why they say that with idol worshipping, they say don't hate idol worshipping, because then you'll still have a relationship with it. Rather, you should laugh it off. And that's the best way to actually deal with negativity, is to laugh it off.
Yeah, comedy is a wonderful tool. What a great gift, huh? Because you're making a connection. It's a discernment, isn't it? Comedy?
I love watching talk shows, comedy, where they basically take news stories that are happening, but they give it that comedy sort of
like
insight.
Daily Show or
Exactly.
Steve Colbert.
Exactly, and also I love watching Last Week Tonight, where they talk about really deep, important issues, but because they put that comedy around it and do that balance of giving you important information, but at the same time not making you get too stressed and sort of emotional, it allows you for it to actually go in deeper and you can actually remember it. While if it's too intense emotionally, you won't remember the details. You'll just remember the emotions. It's always a balance of knowledge and emotion, that middle line of not getting too much into the knowledge part, where you're just so hooked up in your philosophies and understandings and stuff. But on the other hand, don't fall into the emotion where you're just engulfed into emotion, and then you can't actually do any scrutiny.
Right.
You can actually understand. That's why the best thing to do when you're in emotional state, and if you're in a descent, which is emotional, the best thing is actually get out of that emotion and look at it from the side. And you can do that with a book, with a lesson, with a friend, to actually allow you to see your state from the side, and then you can actually build that faith that you need to actually go back into the right line.
But they are great discernments, aren't they, in the joke?
Yes, definitely. And it allows you to, I always like to say this thing of, the children of Israel are leaving Egypt, and think of it like a microphone. It's like, what's your first sentence to say when you've come out of Egypt? When man went to the moon, it's like, a big step for man, a nice, strong sentence, and like a powerful motto or whatever. And the Israelis come out, and it's like the first thing is a complaint. They say, what, there's not enough tombstones in Egypt that you brought us out here to die? So we learn two things from this. One is that we love complaining. And number two, we love comedy and sarcasm. And that's kept us going for for many centuries.
Yeah, and the Jewish people have produced countless wonderful comedians. We have what they call the Jewish Alps and the Catskills in New York State, and they had famous hotels, and all the great comedians worked there.
In order to advance, if you have to know how to laugh at yourself. You know, on one hand, you have to take your advancement seriously, but don't take yourself seriously.
Right. The two selves.
Exactly.
But the complaining and the sarcasm you were speaking of, that is in a kind of a signature of Jewish mindset, is that considered lack of correction or what? Or not even?
Well, in the story, they passed after that. They passed the Red Sea, and that's called passing the barrier. So I'm guessing it can't be that bad if you're, doing sarcasm and complaining just before you pass the barrier and you actually pass. The idea is that the advantage of sarcasm is, we normally look down on sarcasm and see it as like, oh, he's just trying to belittle or the subject. But sarcasm allows you to talk about very deep concepts with a bit of lightheadedness that actually allows it to just stay. So, you can take the most deepest and sort of stressful concepts, but if you add a bit of sarcasm to them, it actually allows it to not only for you to actually handle it, but actually internalize it. So I would say it's a vital thing on the path to able to laugh at things and see the comedy and see how the creator just,
It's a great vehicle.
The creator makes so many jokes.
Yes.
The other day when in the lesson where Rav Leitman, he was talking about Malchut going to Bina, and then Shachar asked him, well, what does that mean? And then Rav said, Mevaseret Zion. I just got such a laugh from that because that's where I live, and I found it hilarious because he's talking about me, but he doesn't know me, so it's like that's like a comedy moment. And that once I was with Yochanan, and we were going onto a bus, and we were like, the creator's out of jokes, like he can't surprise us anymore. And we go onto a bus, and we see there an ultra-Orthodox man sitting with like a plastic cover so that he weren't able to see women. It looked like he was like sunbathing in the bus sort of thing, and it was just so hilarious. It was like, and then we were like, touche, God, touche.
The truth, but make sure you make them laugh or they'll probably kill you. It's a great vehicle for delivering great discernments.
But we found it hilarious when that happened. It just like, we didn't question the creator again in its ability to just give so many jokes and stuff, because think about it, the idea of most jokes is the dichotomy between what you're expecting, what actually was a result, right? And then it makes you laugh. So you'll see that happen so much when you grow the differences, the dichotomy between your perception that you're the creator and the reality that you're just a human being. And that dichotomy just causes so many situations for just hilarious results.
I think that will help dispel the fanaticism too when you can laugh like that. Because I think most fanatics don't have a pretty good sense of humor.
I agree.
Points, heads up on things to avoid, like what I would consider traps.
I think we'll stop here and into the after party.